Hello, fellow Toolboxers. Welcome to episode number 377 of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox podcast. Excuse me, I'm doing an emergency session, recording this early in the morning with updates on all the changes, the ones I gather, anyways. I think I've have like 12 with subsections in each of the changes happening since it's April 15th, tax day, under the Trump administration with regards to immigration. I know it's hard for practitioners to keep up, especially if they don't touch upon every subject area, which I don't necessarily practice every day myself. But I kept some notes I want to share with you so I have an idea what's happening, and some of my thoughts, some things to think about, or just putting it on your radar. So that's the focus of this episode we're going to talk about. Before we start, I want people to know that we have a lot of courses and training, CLE seminars at the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox. We have a E2 session live where we're doing a seminar every month on for an hour, breaking down an E2 case, an actual case. That's stopping in April. We're going to move on to L1s and NIWs. So if you're interested, email me at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. We also have the Ultimate Marriage Green Card course, the family-based course teaching how to run just going through 15 plus hours of training and education on how I run my marriage green card firm, and doing very well at it and teach you how to do it. So that's a really pivotal course to be able to fast forward your practice in your life, to do bigger and greater things. Now we have a lot of free stuff as well. Those are on our community page called Circle.s. So that's a company that hosts it. But it's a free community page for lawyers. So if you're interested in joining, just email me and send me your bar information so I know you're a practitioner, private practice. There's dozens plus hours of CLE trainings, white labeled content, discussion groups, a lot of information that's going to help you in the group as well. So definitely join now. We have a couple hundred members in it right now. It's an alternative now we're developing for Facebook, because Facebook's just not a reliable system for our community pages. And the last thing I want to mention right here is that I'm going to be actually one more thing. I'm going to be in AILA conference this summer, so I'll see you there in Colorado. I got a booth for the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, but also we just published the issue number 9 actually of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox magazine. It's up. If you go to iltbox.com or immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com, you can check out that magazine issue there. However, we're starting to collect articles for issue number 10, which I'm running late on, so I needed 5 articles. So if you have a good topic, let me know and what the topic is, and we can flesh it out and get an article in there, 2-3 pages. Citations not necessary. Just want some good information, some good data for other practitioners to read and review and learn about. So I think that'll help out there. So email me at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com if you're interested in getting published and having more media about you for getting clients and for more notoriety in the field. We help get you there. And that was the last thing of the NAILA conference. So without further ado, let's get it started. None of the information provided here is intended as individual legal guidance. Please consult with an immigration attorney about your case, but you know that already. Okay, so let's start with number 1. Asylum cases, which I don't do, but I've been reading up on what people are dealing with. And I learned about this thing called pre-termit, which is happening, which means that if an asylum court, they think that your I-589, the asylum application, is not properly filed as missing parts, instead of allowing you to have a master hearing, all that kind of stuff, they'll just deny you and order you removed. So that's happening. There's a memo that was published on it. I wish I saved the PDFs of these memos that I could attach it to this, but I didn't. But just be prepared for that. Some people send out skeleton asylum cases at bare bones. It's like sometimes you have to do that because you're hitting the 1-year deadline. The client can't get the documents together. But in general, it's like I've done interviews with people about this before on my show. It's always best to, when you're going to punch with everything. As they say, you're going to shoot to kill. Don't send a halfway thing. Sometimes clients are like, "Oh, just send this and see what happens." Like, no, we want to go the 2x whatever it is, and so we're more effective what we are, with what we do. So with these asylum cases, it's just try your best to do a fuller case if you're going to be submitting it. Now, with regard to asylum affirmative hearings, we've had attorneys say that people are getting picked up right after the interview. Or not right after the interview, but I had one colleague who had a guy here on asylum for like 10 years, finally had his interview. He had a work permit EAD all this time, no flight risk, all that kind of stuff. He had the interview 2 or 3 weeks later. ICE just came and picked him up and detained him, and no criminal history and stuff. So that was a pretty scary situation here in Southern California. So that's the kind of stuff that's happening. Now, with regard to scary situations, there's another executive order published by the president attacking immigration lawyers, particularly in the field of asylum law, accuse them of frivolous filings and the like. The thing about it is, and I see this with H-1Bs as well, which is a very politically charged area. It's obvious who the bad actors are here, because it's like one firm is filing, 150 asylum cases, and they all look the same. It's really easy for them to pick up on who's doing some shady games and who's real case. So they just, that's the thing. Like they kind of, it seems like, want this issue to exist just to argue about it. Same with the H1Bs. We know who like the 5 companies are that are abusing it. So it's like H1Bs, there's no, they soak up all the H1B numbers. So just regular companies that may need one person can't get it. These people are filing like, like the 3,000 H1Bs. So it's like, okay, look at them and say, hey, you guys can maybe use it less because you have all these companies that are needed as well. So it's not very hard to find out who it's not to say bad actors in H1B context, but there's some bad actors there just running a business model of H1B from India. So it's a political issue I think they keep alive, but the targeting is happening, and that's just going to continue. Now, the second unbelievable thing that's happening, it's heavily politicized issue. It's going to offend some people, but it's regards to the closing of freedom of speech in the United States, the First Amendment, which is on the particular issue of Israel, which they're taking away people's green cards if their speech about Israel, not just like student visa holders, which they keep pushing it to make it sound like people are just coming here to study, but it's actual green card holders who are having their green cards removed, sent to removal proceedings. So that's a mess. So that's happening. A second person just got hit with it today. That's known. And then at CBP, they could check this stuff out. They had one professor who was stopped. I mean, she had visited the funeral for like the main guy, I think, from Lebanon, Hezbollah. I'm not positive about the details. I didn't get too much into it, but I can CBP has always been doing random stuff. I once had a guy contact me, and he was a student, and he was part of a WhatsApp group that included just people we didn't know, just like kids that went to like high school together. And one of them sent this like torture video for everyone to see. And he's like, I didn't know who this person was. I didn't watch the video, but CB checked my phone and saw it, and then I think even expedited removal. I can't remember. Not probably not probably volunteer withdrawal. I can't remember. This was like 5 years ago. So they've been doing this kind of stuff a lot, but it just hasn't been in the news. But they could do it now. Again, B2s, F1s. You kind of expect this stuff. That's a possibility. But the green card person having that happen, that's a pretty tremendous change to the system. It's very unfortunate. Number 3 is continuing with CBP theme. They've updated their guidance that if you're an I-751 applicant, removal conditions, marriage based, and your case is denied with USCIS and your removal proceedings, if you travel, even though you might have a green card, evidence of green card, they're not going to let you in. And that's like national policy, they said, because it happened first in Boston. And now they made an announcement of national policy. To prepare for that, generally anyone who's in removal proceedings should travel. But that's that. Now, there's big worry because they're checking phones and any arrest could pop up into the system if you had it, if you're a traveler. So that's always an issue. Practically speaking, I'm not sure I'll be checking everyone's phones. It's still statistically going to be insignificant, but it's something to worry about, especially again if you have arrest history of any kind or issues that red flag you that can take you to secondary. Now, the big worry is that VAWA is that lawyers are getting checked too. One like Palestinian kind of lawyer was detained, and a lot of lawyers are saying, "Hey, what can we do? Should we, take not bring our phone, wipe our computers, all that kind of stuff?" And that's an issue. I don't think most lawyers are going to have this issue. They're going to be targeted. There's a couple of lawyers that were working on the border. They've been targeted a lot by CBP. The Palestinian lawyers doing work, so I think it's like really targeted kind of stuff. But it's possible. Now, the rule which that they follow is that they put your phone in cloud mode, and whatever is accessible in essentially the luggage of your phone, it's on the data on the phone, they could access. But if you're traveling, you could just take what we have is like the Google app, Slack, our Dropbox, or shared drives, and all that, and then just put it back in. So there's unaccessible. If they force you to open those, I think you could have especially as a immigration lawyer, you can have a legal challenge. Say, no, I don't want to do that. That's my private communications. Do you have any like national security concerns that's so? And then take it from there. But it's a messed up situation, and along with being a messed up situation, people that have VAWA cases pending who travel, they're having some of those taking the secondary question actually about the VAWA situation, which is not typical. They don't usually do that for those kind of cases, but there are reports of that happening. Now, USCIS, which is what I deal with the most, is having all sorts of issues itself. Delays are going to be coming. One is because of a reduction in workforce. It seems they are trying to get people to leave. They're already understaffed, so cases that should be taking 2 minutes are taking 2 years. But in-person interviews are also coming back as well. And that's troublesome because it's the delays is going to cause for people to go through the interview process, and the officers, instead of reviewing cases, are asking people, were you a Nazi prison guard in 1945? Did you recruit child soldiers? All these I-45 questions are ridiculous. But also, what's happening in with ICE is they're picking up people at I-130 hearing. So the thing is, even if you have a removal order, if you have like you're an arriving alien, for example, you can adjust that to USCIS. It's a weird loophole law that exists that I just learned about a couple months ago, but that's possible now to adjust. But ICE could reserve the ability to come in, pick you up, and some places are doing that, Miami in particular. So this is one of those backdoor ways nowadays. So if you have like a case where someone is an I-130 case that you want to do a 601A for waiver of inadmissibility based on a 3 or 10-year bar, if you file the I-130, there's going to be an interview, and there's a chance that they might get picked up. So this is a backdoor way of completely getting rid of the I-601A waiver because the potential of the person being detained and put in removal proceedings, which undermines the whole thing, because then they're going to have a removal order potentially, or be all that mess that ensues from it. So that's a big deal right there. If that's the situation, these kind of clean I-130 cases that could get I-601As could be picked up. It undermines the whole process that President Obama had started with the 601A waivers. Now, another issue that's popping up, I haven't dealt with it myself, but attorneys are reporting that if you call USCIS, the officers are now requesting that you have the client present with you, which is ridiculous because the whole point of having a lawyer is not to have that. And secondly, sometimes you might be on hold for an hour. How are you going to practically do that? So these are ways to kind of wear down the attorneys and bring up legal fees for clients. I think it's like a dastardly kind of way to do it. And some people are reporting that the officers on the phone have become very abrasive. If they ask you what is the age, what's the date of birth of the applicant, and you spend 2 or 3 seconds trying to find what the date was, they might say, "Oh, it's a security risk. I'm hanging up," whatever that means. Or people who've had the client on the line, one person said the client couldn't understand, so the lawyer repeated what the USCIS call operator had said, and they said, "Oh, you're coaching your client." They hung up on him. And so these kind of ridiculous things are happening. Ideally, there'd be lawsuits about it, but we'll see. The next thing about USCIS are the form updates that happen. It's kind of passed, but in February, March-ish, they updated forms overnight, and then lawsuits happened. They pulled back, but that's happening. Now, be mindful. There are tweaks happening to the forms every time, and when they're not making the rulemaking announcements, it's hard to see what the exact changes are. One was question about whether if you had unlawful presence in the past. And that's a tricky question because unlawful presence is a highly legal term. If you're DS and you overstay duration of status on an F1 student visa, you're not accumulating unlawful presence. If you're DACA, the days you have DACA, you're not. So you calculate those, you don't. Pro se people are not going to be able to understand this, so that's an issue. Now the Trump administration has announced like a gold card, which is like an EB5 plus for investment in the United States. It doesn't make sense because Congress needs to pass that law. So that's kind of a ridiculous thing they're selling and publishing, which Commerce Secretary said they already sold a bunch. I don't believe it. There's no procedure for this, but yeah, that's that. And they're reopening I-140s, and that was expected. Probably a few national interest waivers have been reported in EB1As as reopened to re-adjudicate, I guess. So be mindful of that. The delays in getting the cases finished, that's the problem. We have cases that are current NIWs, and they're still pending and not being approved with the I-45, so that's kind of annoying. And that opens up more time for them to make these considerations. Even after the green card's approved, they could even reopen it then, which is even more of a mess because at that point, their H-1B, their student visa, or their other permission to stay is expired. And it puts them in a really bad position. It should be legal for them to do that, but that's the situation that we're seeing with the government. USCIS related is that the Ombudsman's office has been shut down. Unfortunately, we're working with them closely because the lockbox is messing up a couple of our cases. And right in the midst of it, they closed down. That's unfortunate. I think some other agencies that are like the USCIS Ombudsman for like the Asylum Department or something like that have closed as well. Now, there's this other thing called the USCIS Community Liaison Community Service Group. If you go to uscis.gov, it's there. We used it in the past to try to fix issues when like the field officers were making mistakes instead of going to the ombudsman. And they were really helpful within 24 hours fixing things. But since the Trump administration came, they've been non-responsive to our emails when we send them. So that was a really good unknown kind of measure that people could have used to get cases fixed without filing an I-290 appeal and doing all that kind of stuff, which was shut down, which is very unfortunate. Now, with regards to, I guess, USCIS was where they would file this new registry situation where you're supposed to register yourself if you're EWI in certain other situations has come up. They opened it up on 11th, instead of the deadline to file was 11th of April. What I'm surprised is that there have been lawsuits on this. This kind of stops certain aspects of it because there is criminal liability for it if you don't do it, which creates a Fifth Amendment challenge. Potentially, I'm not a criminal lawyer, constitutional lawyer, of incriminating yourself. So that's troublesome, telling where you are and all that kind of stuff. How do you advise clients on it? Do you tell them not to do it? Do you do it? It puts you in an ethical bind. At most, we're just telling clients this exists. It's your personal decision what you want to do with it. And what's troubling about it, annoying, is we don't have really many EWI cases with our office because we do mostly affirmative funds with USCIS. So almost everyone has status. We just took on a few I-601A cases because just we felt bad for clients, kind of pro bono kind of stuff. And the 601A, they do fingerprints. So the fact is they have fingerprints, but I-601A waiver people still have to register. People who did Keeping Families Together Biden parole program who did fingerprints, they have to register. And DACA people who didn't get EADs have to register too, even though their fingerprints are in the system. So that was an annoying aspect of that program. Now, there's no travel ban yet. It's April 15th. I thought immediately on day one he's going to do an Iran travel ban. And it hasn't happened, so that's interesting. There's backdoor ways of dealing with that too, but we have cases being approved. So it's all over the place. We're going to see what happens. There was this word in the New York Times that they have this tiered system, all that kind of stuff. That hasn't come to fruition. I've had Pakistan cases be approved too recently. Now, South Sudan did get a travel ban because they were unwilling to accept a deportee. But South Sudan responded back and said the person reporting us wasn't from South Sudan. I think they said they're a Ugandan national. So it wasn't that we weren't accepting deportees from the United States to incur this travel ban and visa revocations for all South Sudanese citizens kind of thing. That was because just the person was being sent to the wrong country. Now, number 8, use of the Alien Enemies Act to moving people to Venezuela. This is like the most egregious kind of thing. It's very dangerous for the U.S. citizens as well because essentially the registration is making the argument that they can pick up anyone they want if they think they're terrorists or have committed, which is open-ended, like definitionally, and they can send them to Venezuela to El Salvador to a high security prison. To essentially, God knows what happens to them, and they can't return them. They have no authority to return them. So it's very troubling, very very troubling. Seems like Trump administration is, I think, rolling back internationalization to make a regional kind of situation. Capture Greenland to the top, up to Panama to the bottom, and then send people, I guess, to El Salvador for prisons and stuff. So United States becomes like an America that includes Canada, Mexico, kind of breaking their nationalistic ties into this entity and having prisoners sent to the south, having protection to the north. It seems like that's what the bigger strategic game plan is. But I've said that this is like a massive issue because the Supreme Court has even said to bring this person back, and they're not complying. Very very troublesome. But it's the government's always going inevitably in this direction. Whoever the leadership is, this was like an inevitable thing that's going to happen. This kind of stuff. Number 9, ICE enforcement is no longer accepting deferred action on like U visa holders. VAWA cases they're picking up. They're not getting the benefit of the doubt, if you will, on these kind of cases, which is very troubling too, because U visas are taking forever. VAWA cases are taking forever. There's a backlog, so that's a big problem. Now, the F1 student visa holders we've discussed above, they're having big issues. Obviously, if there are freedom of speech issues with Israel and talking about Palestine, all that kind of stuff. But in the last 2 weeks, we've getting nonstop messages from students who are getting their cases revoked. Obviously, if you had like severe criminal history, DUIs even, historically, the embassy would notify you that your visa has been revoked, but the I-20 would not be terminated. But that's happening. Again, free speech ones in regard to Israel, people who have DUIs. But now, even if a person was like arrested and let go, it was a wrongful arrest. We have people who say, "Oh, they arrested me." They might go say it was the wrong person. Even people who have fingerprints in the system are getting I-20 termination notices with that information. There's lawsuits being accumulated, being filed right now on this count, so that's a big deal. But it's very expensive, very hard, very stressful situation that these people are going over in the middle of school, being sent out with no information. And some schools are saying to reinstate. Who knows how reinstatement is actually going to work, if it's going to happen. But some schools are saying that we're afraid to even do reinstatement for you because we don't know what's going on. So they don't even give them the opportunity, the DSO, to do that. Obviously, DSOs, a lot of times, this is lawyers, this is a new situation, let alone DSOs who are backed up, have a lot of work, and may not understand the whole system. So that's a very disheartening situation. Many times I was talking to a community college, one of the biggest community colleges in the country, to one of their professors, and he said 20% of our funding comes from foreign students. So if that foreign students are afraid to come, then that's going to be a problem because it's going to hit funding big time. Now, I had this numbered, but another issue in light of this is we're getting a lot of people who want to visit on tourist visas who are scared to come because they think they're going to get picked up based on what's happening in the news. Some news kind of does a disservice but not properly explaining what's happening. There's millions of people coming and going. Very rarely a tourist going to have issues, but I'm getting people. If one person contacts me, that means like 100 people have this worry. And I've had like 10 people contact me, so that's 1,000 people. Potential people who are tourists who want to come to the United States but are afraid. So what influence does this have? What effect does this have on tourism, finances of the United States, global respect? It's a hot mess. Now, number 11, End of the parole programs. Obviously, the CHNV or whatever it was called, Venezuela and Colombia, all that program, parole programs that Biden did and U4U have been shut down. So that's one aspect of it. But the bigger aspect now is people who are here, they're stalling their decision. So if you have like a Venezuelan parole case who gets married a U.S. citizen, apparently it's an internal memo to, I'm not sure if it's official, they published, but to stall these cases, not approve them, to do additional background checks. Asylum cases too, which I should have referenced above. If they're getting green cards, the green card cases are allegedly being stalled as well. So that's a problem. And then the worry becomes, what about the parole programs for DACA AP? Should you send people out or not? Some people are saying that the parole program for DACA AP hasn't shut down, but some people are saying we're getting parole approved for DACA. So a mixed boat. And then parole in place for military families. Some are saying shut down. Some people are getting it. So mixed information about that too. And a weird situation is that they're sending emails to a bunch of people, even lawyers and citizens, saying that the parole program has been discontinued. You need to leave the U.S. now. That kind of stuff is kind of weird. And then number 12, the final one, is the sharing of information between government agencies that didn't happen before. IRS is beginning to share information with ICE, so that people who have been using ITIN or ITIN numbers for employment are going to be, having attention paid to them. So that's a major issue for them. And apparently Doge is accessing USCIS documents, and they're probably doing it with these F1 cases using AI systems to manage it. That can be for the best, because sometimes the USCIS makes a lot of mistakes, but for the most part, I'm sure they can be used for dastardly and negative aspects. Especially people who file pro se, because they file such messy cases. I have a couple of people I'm working with right now who submit a case on their own and like it's stalled, or they just decide to get a lawyer now because of Trump. And I'm looking at it, they make a bunch of mistakes, they leave huge parts of it empty. They put the wrong person's name in the wrong spot. And so when people do on their own, it's a lot of problems. You think with the new online version, it will kind of catch it, but they still make a lot of mistakes. So it's unfortunate. So that's the bad news that's happening right now in the immigration space. But I wanted to go over and have a long list as a reference for people who haven't caught all of them, or all the ones that I could catch at least that I put here. If you're an immigration lawyer interested in learning more, want to subscribe and continue on this, and leave a good comment on wherever you're watching this, so we get more views on this. This is a trade podcast intended for immigration lawyers, but we have a community page where we share a lot of information for free. Just email me at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com to get that. If you're going to be at the AILA conference in Colorado, please come and see me. I'll have a booth. You'll catch me. I'll be the person smiling in the corner booth in the back area. And if you're interested in learning marriage-based green cards, the ability for me to run this six-figure practice, is it six figures or is it more? I always forget if it's 6 or 7 figures. It's not a $1 million firm. So I'm not trying to be a $1 million firm. I'm trying to have a lifestyle brand where I can come and do podcasts and travel and be with my family, my kids, all that kind of stuff, and make a good living in LA. So it's very doable with high margins and all that kind of stuff. I'll teach you. I have the course ready for you. Email me at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. Until next one, have a good one.